water facility is perfectly legal under your ordinance, but the 24/7 low frequency humming and noise of these fans will be in our backyards. Second, developers, this is a contracts industry, routinely use what we call a warehouse pivot, because data centers are just concrete shells. The developer can apply for permitted use, like a fulfillment warehouse. Once they're built, they can probably build and insure with ultra dense next generation server racks, and still satisfy your criteria. The gamble they're making here is that our city does not have the tech audit and understand the secure layout of whether this is really training AI or service. And I will tell you, with regards to the computer center comment, I've been to these places. They have the support functions. We've had cooking staff serving free food to engineers there. These are fully staffed facilities that act as offices as well. And so the last thing I want to say is that we are building this ordinance based on current understanding, but the industry is highly unpredictable. But in just a span of 2 years, the tech sector had gone from traditional structures to having makeshift tents to power data centers on land. And now we're talking about building data centers in space. So because of the intense flexibility, creativity, we need to really assess this and not rush through this.
It appears that you prepared this in writing and you share it.
There is a recording device added. Is that legal?
It's a public meeting. I don't believe there's any.
We're in day 12.
Okay.
Yes.
Hello, council members, mayor. So my name is Lori Wade. I'm actually a resident of Union, 560 Malcolm Road. But as a resident of Union County, I wanted to be here to support this ban on AI data centers. So I'm actually here representing the nonprofit, the Union County Residents Alliance Coalition. So we're very passionate about preserving the future of Union County and not having these AI data centers here. We can talk ad nauseum about what they do, why they're harmful, what they could do to the environment, our health. The gentleman before me kind of said half the stuff I was going to say. So, but I wanted to first focus on your transparency. So thank you so much for your FAQ that was online, for making it so publicized. Look at all these people here who your residents knew that this was happening. We were here, people of Union County were here to voice our concerns and ask questions. And, that transparency as leaders of the community, it's really something that we appreciate. You guys bear a responsibility to the residents to notify us of this before it happens, the ordinances, and not to have things happen that don't seem like it's an AI data center, as the gentleman just said, building something that then gets converted into one. Or so CoreWeave, for example, they're building an AI data center in Kenilworth. It's right across the street, literally right across the street from Union. But Union didn't, there was no talking there. Also, they have plans for 2 more AI data centers. So the one that's got the approval is being built right now, but they're now trying to approve 2 more. And we don't feel there's the transparency with the Kenilworth Town Council. So I really want to thank you in Summit. You guys really did a service to the community here in Union County. I also appreciate the delineation between a AI data center and a computer center. We also, at the coalition, could use your help in getting the information out to the Summit residents, as residents of Union County, that this is happening all over the county. There's lots of talk. Union just passed an ordinance to ban AI data centers at their last council meeting. And we also recognize that big tech wants New Jersey to be top 5 in AI infrastructure. There's tons of pressure on townships and counties. There's a lot of pressure to acquiesce to this construction of these data centers within your borders. And the pressure from big tech, they have tons of money, tons of power, tons of influence. So we appreciate putting the residents first. And we want to show gratitude to the council for hearing us out, prioritizing the health and of the people and the environment in Union County and all across our beautiful Garden State. We're the Garden State for a reason, so we want to preserve the environment. And this may feel like a small thing, but it has a ripple effect. So, Ms. Mayor, at the coalition, we'd love if you shared this rationale for the ban with the New Jersey Mayor's meeting. Hopefully you can encourage other towns to follow suit in putting affordability and health above big tech and profits. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Delia Hamlet. Thank you, Irene Loschert, for letting me borrow your readers tonight. Good evening. I want to speak directly. I'm going to speak quickly. I know I only have 3 minutes, which I understand. I want to speak directly to the misconception that this ordinance is safe because it only applies above a 90 megawatt threshold. Everyone is being guided by the size of the megawatts, but that is not the only issue residents experience on the ground. For the last 3 years, I've been boots on the ground with the residents down near the BMS facility multiple times over the years. I was there again last night with the neighbors. This is not theoretical to them. The data center component there is roughly 11,000 square feet. You can ask the residents up and down the street. There is a constant mechanical hum. It's simply a fact. There are backup alarms, which we recently got solved over the last year. There is noise that residents are living with every day. And that is the white elephant in this room. The ordinance as written largely ignores the very reason many neighbors are here tonight that know nothing about megawatts. Residents are not here because they are studying megawatt thresholds. They are here because they are living with constant humming, alarms, mechanical equipment, and industrial noise that impacts a residential area. I also want to clarify the role of the planning board. The planning board's role that I sit on as the vice chair was not to rewrite the ordinance. The question before the planning board was whether or not the ordinance was consistent or not inconsistent with the master plan. That is a very different question from whether or not the ordinance is strong enough, clear enough, or protective enough for the residents. Councilmember Chris Foley sits on me with that board, and he would be able to clarify that for you as well. And respectfully, this is the job of local government, not just to look at a definition on a slide, but to go out, visit with the residents, stand on the street, and hear what they are experiencing from an approximately 11,000 square foot facility. If neighbors are already dealing with this level of noise from that facility, then why should we not pretend that a megawatt threshold alone protects them from a larger or repurposed data center use? That is exactly why the 20 megawatt threshold concerns me. I got a minute left. Noise does not magically become acceptable at 19 megawatts just because an ordinance starts at 20. The noise comes from the equipment, the cooling systems, the chillers, the fans, the generators, the transformers, truck activity. Just as our friend John here just said, sounds like we should put him on a committee. The question is simple. Do we really believe 19 megawatt data? Do we really believe 19 megawatt data would be quiet, but a 20 megawatt data center would be not? Of course not. And to the slide that said, wait, what? What about everything below 20 megawatts? Exactly, that's the question. The city's position is that an AI data center below 20 megawatts are already prohibited because the principal use language, the 20 megawatt threshold is not necessary, it should come out. Leaving that number in the ordinance creates confusion, tells the residents one thing, but gives the developer another thing to argue. It gives future applicants, attorneys, and boards a number of things to fight over. If the intent is a true ban, then say that, ban the use.
Thank you.
Hello, Elliot Fishman, 34 Webster Avenue. I'm one of the residents in the neighborhood behind BMS, and I'm one of the 200 residents who signed the petition, and one of the 40 residents who teamed up with former Mayor Nora Radist and Delia Hamlet to fight the noise at BMS. I'm standing at this lectern to underscore how grave and how serious noise from BMS presently is. And to amplify what Delia just said, that is the white elephant in the room here. Now, BMS may consume 3 or 4 megawatts. They're talking about 19 or 20. Already the noise is unbearably bad in that neighborhood. Just as a matter of history, well, you may be aware that Summit has a noise ordinance on the books where 65 decibels after 7 p.m. is prohibited. That has never been enforced except one time. That was against BMS when former Mayor Radist contracted the county district attorney to sue BMS. Now that lawsuit was disposed, but we actually had the Board of Health out with noise meters and a county attorney writing complaints against BMS. Now you're proposing something which is potentially 5 times that, or that would be very disappointing to the whole neighborhood. Thank you.
My name is Eric Moberg. Thank you, Mayor, Council President, Council. I am strongly in support of the most stringent language written into the AI data center ban. Councilman Boyer has been especially focused on protecting the residents of Summit and everyone who visits Summit and does business in Summit. Now, for the people who are at home watching on TV or on YouTube, the traditional AI data center, it has nothing to do with a computer room or speeding your orders from Chewy or getting your Amazon orders there any faster. It can also be noted as a surveillance center. It is tying together all of the flock cameras. That is the reason for the massive amount of computing power that is needed. That is why it needs to use so much water. Now, for sake of comparison, let's say our current ability to generate power is a postage stamp. A traditional computer room is insignificant, but an AI data center would be equivalent to a large ballroom table or a massive dining room table. Where is that power coming from? What are you doing with all the heat? And as far as the hum, it never, ever stops. You will hear it 24/7, 365, including Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's and Easter, and it won't stop. I urge the council to strike all the megawatt language, make it very clear, very plain, and ban them all.
Good evening. My name is Sheila Kaushik, and I live on 255 Camp Place Boulevard. I will share my time with my son Rohan. We'll also have a few comments. I just have a few very quick comments. It's my first time coming before this council and first time speaking on any matters regarding the city of Summit. But this felt like a very important one, and I certainly echo, I think, every single comment made by the other residents. I'm not an expert in the field. I appreciate Mr. Hung and his comments about the weaknesses in the language that's written. And I also appreciate what appears to be kind of the same intention to ban AI data centers, but I don't think it takes an expert to see a lot of the gaps and the misses in the language and how it can be more robust. And turn over to my son.
I think my name is Rohan Kaushik. I think we should stop the data centers because they use a lot of water, and maybe we could use the water for something else. There's also the environmental concerns. It might destroy a lot of the environment, and the noise will be very annoying, a lot.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lucille Callahan. I live at 131 Passaic Avenue for 37 years, backed up to the property that we're discussing. And it is noisy. And every new purchaser of that land has been worse and worse and worse over the decades. And some of the things that I noticed tonight, we were hearing that it's really unlikely, the probability of a data center coming to Summit anyway isn't going to happen. Why rely on that? Just say no to all of them, period, regardless of size. I don't know the difference between over 20 and under 20 in terms of what those fans are going to sound like, but it's not going to be good. I also want to know, do we have studies that tell us what's happened in other markets where these have gone in to property values? Right within the ring around the data centers and the mile out and the 2 miles out and the 3 miles out. What about businesses? If property values are going down, the viability of the town goes down. How many businesses close? What about the income for the business owners? How many businesses closed? And what about hearing, auditory? If we're going to be immersed with this god-awful sound, are there studies on what happens to people's health and their hearing in the areas that this has happened? And I'm talking about like-to-like areas of Summit, New Jersey. How many are these across the country? Do we have any information? Has anyone looked into it? Have we had National Association of Realtors look at property values? What has dropped? What hasn't? Has it gone up? Maybe. Maybe it's a good thing. I don't know. But we need that information. So until we have that information, we need to restrict these data centers coming in and do it quickly. And it needs to prohibit all, regardless of the megawatts. Thank you.
Susan Bowen, 45 Waldron Avenue. I am a lifetime Summit resident, and one thing I know about all of us, there's a reason we live here. And the reason we live here is because we're really good at what we do. And so we get to have nice houses, and that's a great thing. And I've known very, very brilliant people here in Summit. My dad is one of them, went to Princeton. You know what really, really bright people do? They realize they're not experts. They find the right expert. Why haven't we found Mr. Hung? You guys are very good at what you do, but you don't know about this. You just don't, because it's not what you do for a living, right? And let me tell you two other things I saw. One of them is my other house is at Lake Opatcong, and Lake Opatcong has very fulsome rules about the noise ordinance, right? And yet, there are huge boats on Lake Opatcong every day that are way above the noise ordinance. You know why? It wasn't well drafted. And so what happens is you say, well, there's a problem with this boat. And they say, well, we don't have a way to test it. And the way we test it is when the boat is idling at the dock. That's not when the boat is loud. That's why you need experts to say, in 5 years, this isn't about water, but it is about something else. I don't know, but you guys don't either. Trust the real experts. Remember why you're here. Remember what you do when you have a complicated problem. You go to an expert. You go to not necessarily a smart person, although you really want a smart person, but you want an expert. Why isn't there anything in this about noise? Is that our problem? Is that going to be our problem in 5 years? Probably. So why aren't we thinking about it? The other thing I think, and I see I have 41 seconds. Remember my thing about the boats at Lake Opatcong. The only way you're going to find out about water usage is after this is built. And you know what? You're not a water utility, right? You don't have the ability to audit how many gallons of water are going to be used. So why does it matter? Why aren't you waiting until you understand? You talk to somebody like Mr. Hung. You ask Mr. Hung, who's the best guy who knows about that? And you talk to that guy. That guy may not know how to cook a turkey. He might be very smart, right? You wouldn't trust him to cook a turkey, but you would trust him to talk about data centers. And that's what you're not doing. So that's what I think.
Good evening, Don Nelson, 20 Plain Street, lifelong resident of Summit. I know you guys are trying your best. I know you really are. But I looked at a flyer this afternoon that talks about the sale of 88 Mars Avenue. On the flyer, it says data center as one of the uses. So though we may believe it's not going to happen here, if it's being advertised, there's a possibility it's going to happen. I know you're trying your best. And just to reinforce the noise coming off of Bristol Myers Squibb, I was in someone's backyard on Kemp Place the other day. I believe it was 211. And I was shocked by the noise. I was just back there for some other business I was conducting, and I was really shocked by the noise. So while we're trying to do our best, we really do need to recruit experts. I'm not an expert. Believe me, I don't megawatts, kilowatts, whatever. Change the number, make it so that a 5-year-old, you can explain it to a 5-year-old. That they know no means no. We all have kids. Most of us have kids. We say no, they push the boundaries. We say no, they push the boundaries, we give in. You have to say no. It's pretty simple. Your number one job, forget budgets. All your budgets do dictate how you protect Summit. Your number one job is to protect the citizens of Summit, whether red, blue, purple, yellow, green, whatever the case may be. That's your number one job. You all ran about how much you love Summit. I love Summit, but show that you do it. Show that you really love Summit. Ban data centers with experts so that 20 years from now, when that little postage stamp thing that the guy was talking about doesn't become a problem for us. I guarantee you, most of you won't even be in town in 20 years. I hope to be. I've been here all my life. Don't screw it up, right? We're going to live with your decisions for a really long time. Your number one job is to protect us, who you said you would do when you ran for council. Please do so. Make it so it's easy to understand when a developer comes in and says, I want to do this, whether it's a data center or a high rise. I know affordable housing is a whole different animal, but we have to protect what Summit's about. And we're slowly losing what Summit's about. And this is your opportunity. Clean slate. Put the future in your hands. Write it so it can't be screwed with. Does that make sense? Thank you very much. Enjoy your night.
Hi, my name is Irene Loschert, 14 Lenox Road. My son, who recently graduated from college, is back and living in town and was asking where I was going tonight. So I gave him a brief overview of why I was going, who's on council, who believes what, where they stand. And he did a quick search about AI data centers and he said, oh, 19 megawatts. I mean, says that could be as big as a Walmart supercenter, which is not really small. And he said, and I said, well, you know, there are these people who are okay with the ordinance the way it's written. And then there are 2 people on the council who are completely, or, you know, are for a complete ban of AI data centers. And he said, shouldn't everyone on the council be against that? And I said, yeah, you would think that everyone on the council would want to ban any sort of AI data center. The other thing I wanted to ask was that Council President Toth had made it seem that we should pass this ordinance, or you should pass this ordinance, and that we can amend it down the line pretty easily and finesse it. My question is, why not go for the outright ban to begin with and then finesse it? That way there's no question, right? There's no loopholes to get through. If you ban it outright and then you feel like you need to work it a little bit and rewrite it and see maybe it's a little too restrictive because, I don't know, a school needs a computer center or something like that, you know, you can work backwards. That's all I wanted to say. I am strongly against the ordinance as it stands right now.
Christine Ertle, 12 Harvey Drive. Last name is E-R-T-L-E. I want to thank the prior residents for the excellent points that they've raised, and I ask you to seriously consider the points that they've raised. I want to supplement their remarks by saying that one of the things that I've heard on the news, on TV, is that New Jersey is already one of the leading states in AI centers. So when I heard that fact or that comment on the TV, I was concerned about that. The other thing is that the federal EPA is now promoting that the AI center builders go to closed water loop systems for cooling so that they can avoid the issues with the water supply. So that's another example of how the wording that's in the ordinance needs to be factor in the fact that the water supply isn't necessarily going to be an issue if they go to this new method. The other thing that they're promoting is that they're promoting building their own energy center on the site, which I'm sure you've heard about because that's kind of gotten a lot of publicity, so that they don't have to use energy off the grid. So that's another thing that talking about the heavy use of the energy isn't necessarily going to be an issue if they have their own energy source. The other thing that I had a concern about was the comment that was made. The presentation was excellent, by the way, but I had a concern about the comment that there's no large property available. I'm sure that Kenilworth thought the same thing, because they didn't expect Merck to sell their property to someone who was going to build an AI center. And we have 2 large Bristol-Myers Squibb properties in town. I happen to live near one of them. So I don't think they have any thought of selling it at the moment. You just never know, because everyone knew Merck was a really big, good place to work in Kenilworth, and now it's not. The other thing is that I wanted to raise was that I am very concerned about the noise pollution, and I'm concerned because it's not really being mentioned in the presentation or in the ordinance, from what I can tell. And air pollution, you don't hear people talking about air pollution too much, but it's my understanding that that's a factor as well, in addition to the noise pollution from the decibel level and the fact that there's also this other kind of noise pollution called tonal noise, which we don't even know it's out there because we can't process it ourselves. So that's another type of. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Thank you very much for having me. And my name is Tom Sokol, 227 Kent Place Boulevard. I've been in Summit for about 6 years. I just want to say thank you very much for raising this ordinance, making sure that we are banning AI data centers. This is an incredibly important thing to get done and get done right. I have a background in construction. I've built the air conditioning systems for data centers. I know firsthand how loud they are. Even for smaller centers, when I was working with them years ago, they are incredibly loud, incredibly hot. No one works in them. It doesn't provide employment opportunities. It doesn't contribute to the community. Offers very little except for lots of noise, lots of heat, lots of pollution, rising electricity costs, tons of negative benefits, tons of negative consequences, very few benefits for the community. Being right behind the BMS property right now, I can see their loading docks when the leaves fall in the fall. It's incredibly loud already. There's plenty of comments already about the noise pollution and how that's not really addressed by the current ordinance. That is already a incredibly big problem. And you're talking about a 20 megawatt facility as per the wording. Imagine your air conditioning unit in your house is about 1 kilowatt. Think 20,000 times bigger than that. It's freight trains size, condensing units outside, pouring sound and pouring heat out into the atmosphere. So I do want to make sure that we have the right people looking at the ordinance, making sure that we have the right wording. These companies are big. They have a lot of lawyers. They are very creative in finding loopholes through. We need to make sure that this ordinance is bulletproof now and into the future, because no one wants to see this in their property and see the noise and the heat get even worse. So thank you very much.
I'll be brief, as I did not prepare anything, but at your listening session last week, I asked the members that were present I'm sorry, Mary Jo DeFonso, 12 Washington Avenue. At your listening session last week, I requested that any research that you guys needed to do was done thoroughly and extensively. And when I hear all these people coming up and rattling all this stuff up, I didn't even know. You haven't done your job. Did you know that the Nashville Zoo is fighting this very same thing? They're supposed to put data centers right next to it. And so if it's going to affect the animals, how is it going to affect us? Can anybody answer that? No. So Dan's right. I've lived here for 50 years of my 62 years. You got to get this right. I don't want to leave. My husband wants to go to Florida. I don't want to go. This is where I grew up. This is where my family owns property. But if you guys can't get this right, I'm out of here. So do your job and get it right. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Aaron Cohen. I live at 225 Kent Place Boulevard. I'm with my 6-month-old daughter, my wife, Ashley, directly bordering the Bristol-Myers Squibb campus on Upper Morse Avenue. I'm one of the residents who will be most immediately directly impacted by whatever happens to that property. And that's why I'm here tonight. I support the intent of Ordinance 26-3390, but this council is right to act, and I'm grateful it's moving. But I'm asking you to not pass this ordinance as written because the 20 megawatt threshold creates a loophole large enough to drive a data center through. 20 megawatts is not a small server room. It's a mid-sized commercial data center, potentially 50 to 150,000 square feet, running 24 hours a day, 365 days a year with industrial cooling systems and backup generators. My neighbors and I already know what it sounds like to live next to a heavy industrial equipment on that campus. A data center would be significantly worse. More importantly, that threshold doesn't account for what we've watched happen 10 miles away in Kenilworth. CoreWeave entered that community describing a 40 megawatt facility. It is now a 250 megawatt, $1.8 billion project under active construction. And most residents did not know it was happening until it was too late to stop it. The BMS campus is 88 acres. Nothing in this ordinance prevents a developer from subdividing that property and filing multiple sub 20 megawatt applications, each technically compliant, collectively catastrophic. I'm suggesting for 3 specific changes to this ordinance. First, remove the megawatt threshold entirely and define the prohibited use by purpose. Any facility whose primary function is housing servers for AI compute, cloud infrastructure, or data storage, regardless of power draw. Second, add campus-wide aggregate language so the limit cannot be gamed parcel by parcel. Third, explicitly state that this prohibition survives any future redevelopment designated for the BMS campus, because under New Jersey law, a redevelopment plan can override a zoning ordinance, and that is exactly the mechanism a developer will use. This ordinance is a good start, but a weak ordinance passed now is harder to fix tomorrow. Please send it back for tighter language. The residents of Kent Place Boulevard are counting on you to get this right.
Hi, my name is Tim Smith. I live at 247A Kent Place Boulevard. And I want to applaud you for taking up this issue. It's a very important one, so thank you for taking it forward. I am affected also by the noise coming from BMS. I've been to this chamber before to talk about reverse alarms. We've made some progress with the white noise reverse alarms. They were going off at 3 in the morning and keeping me and all my kids awake. So I applaud you for making sure that the contractors at that campus are actually using noise alarms that are below the level. But what I will say is the noise ordinance in Summit and broader New Jersey of 50 decibels overnight is too loud, and it doesn't take into account the low wave frequency. So if you go outside on my back porch, you will hear the hum like a freeway from the BMS condenser units. That's just what's pre-existing there. I would encourage the council to take up stricter noise ordinances as part of this plan. It's the noise that's the core issue for us where we live at our house, and there's no mention of any sort of noise pollution that is affecting the property today or what it could be in the future. There are noted health benefits for a low hum on children, on sleep. There's a lot of, I encourage you to look up some of the issues with a low drone hum coming from a campus like this. For me, that's the core issue with the data center and with the current condenser units on the site. So thank you for your attention to this. I appreciate all the work that you've done in the past, and I hope you'll continue it into the future. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Marisol Rodriguez, and I live on 27 Harvey Drive. And I thank you for your service. I echo our fellow residents, and I've noted that no one is for data centers. We are all against them. And I also felt that the 3 points about prohibiting data centers, I was sad to see that it didn't mention anything about noise, which has been a great concern. And now I'm learning about the great heat that these data centers produce, and that would be a terrible impact on the environment. So I respectfully ask you to please do what you've been voted into office for, and that is to protect Summit and its residents. Thank you.
On Milton Avenue. The last time I spoke at a meeting in Summit, I've lived here for 30 years, worked in the town, was when BSW, Broad Street West, was going on, and we almost went down the wrong road, and it was stopped after it went through. And if you learn from history, that's something that really got me involved in politics. I'm a registered Democrat, but this is not political. Trust is earned. Perceptions are perceptions. I think somebody should recuse themselves. And last point, because I don't want to go over 3 minutes, is noise. The only noise we should have in Summit is the ambulances going up and down Broad Street, saving people's lives, and the 4th of July fireworks. Thank you.
Have any more comments from members of the public?
My name is Laura Soden, 48 Madison Avenue, Summit. I don't have any planned speech, but in listening to everybody, I echo everything that they've said. Also, not to brag or complain, but I'm 84. I hope to die in my house. My mother died in my house. And if this gets passed, and if these little, I know BMS is going to stay here for a while. I have contact with one of the people over there because my property borderlines excuse me, the road right next to BMS. I could reach over and shake their hand. And I'm told that they are, it's up for sale. They're keeping 5 buildings and they're going to lease out some of the other buildings. And do you know, and I'm not asking you really hypothetically, do you know what they're going to put in those buildings? Will your ordinance cover what's going to go into those buildings? So that's one of my fears. And I also say that if it is like what they've talked about here, I have to move. I could not. I lived through the demolition of when Celgene took all those buildings down. It was horrible. And I'm just really concerned about what will happen in this next trip. So thank you.
Good evening, Robert Osborne, 55 Madison Avenue, 30-year resident there. I've seen this property change hands 3 or 4 times. And up until recently, the last 3 or 4 years, the noise has become unbearable. The only thing I ask that you please consider the residents. When you go home tonight, put your head on your pillow, enjoy the silence, because we don't have it. And it's not a good thing. I appreciate whatever your consideration for all the neighbors. I speak on behalf of them. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Zachary Lakin. I live at 69 Madison Ave, so I am Bob's neighbor. And first of all, I'd just like to, reiterate what everyone here has said. It doesn't seem like there's any community approval or support for these data centers. we've heard a lot of reasons why they shouldn't be built, from, all different generations, all different sides of the spectrum. However, we have not heard very many benefits, what they will bring our community. And I'd like to talk from the perspective of a new parent. I have a 3-year-old and we're expecting another son in November. I moved to Summit from Short Hills for the community. And I know plenty of others from my son's daycare, as well as our neighbors, who all have the same sentiment that we're here for ourselves to, raise our kids, to be the community that we want to be. And it doesn't seem like these types of data centers will be conducive to, to that quality of life. And I think we can all agree quality of life is a big part of the reason we're here. Also, I appreciate the council, both sides, every member. And I also think that avoiding the appearance of impropriety in any case is important. And that's to gain and to continue and contain the trust of the members of town. So I would just like to reiterate what everyone here seems to think, is that we really should be having some stronger language on how to really put down a firm ban for data centers. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hi, Stacy Allen, Plymouth Road. I want to address the issue of the general development plans because we really need to be precise about that. The general development plans are like master plans for each of these 2 pharmaceutical properties. Both the Summit East Campus and the Old Celgene BMS campus operate under approved general development plans, but neither GDP approved a data center. They approve research, office, and campus uses. Nobody holds a specific vested approval to build an AI data center on either site. At the same time, both zones include older language allowing computer centers, data processing, and communications as a principal use. That language was written before AI data centers were the kind of thing going on today. So the risk is not that somebody has already approved an AI data center, that these are not already approved. The risk is that a future applicant could try to argue that a modern AI data center fits inside older zoning language that was never written for this technology or these impacts. This is exactly why the ordinance needs to be clear. It needs to remove the megawatt threshold, prohibit conversations, and prevent a developer from splitting a project into pieces. A GDP should not be used as a backdoor to convert an approved research or office campus into a large-scale AI data center. If somebody wants to make that argument, they should have to come back through the public land use process with full review of noise, cooling, generators, traffic, water, power, and neighborhood impacts. The honest bottom line is that a GDP may protect what is actually approved, but it should not be treated as a blank check for new industrial use that was never reviewed, never debated, and never approved as an AI data center. So my concern here is it seems like everybody in Summit does want to not have data centers. That seems pretty obvious. It seems like council does not want them. However, I think a lot of us, everybody here speaking tonight, we're concerned that the language is not clear enough and that there's loopholes galore, and we need to make sure that we're covering this. So even if you approve anything, I don't know what you guys are going to do tonight, but even if you approve something, it seems like we need serious experts to make sure that Summit is very much protected. Thank you.
All right, good evening, Anonymous. I have a feeling someone's going to wind up with a data center. Definitely have a feeling about that. To the one resident who said if that winds up happening, she'll move, you're not going to be able to sell your home when there's a data center here. That's not going to happen. I thought that was a little disrespectful that you're asking about the microphone as well. I'm a member of the Free Press. I want to document this meeting. I want to bring it to the public. And, we show everybody's opinions and what their thoughts are and then how you guys vote. That's the whole purpose of it. I find it funny that you're questioning the legality of that. It's a little ridiculous. Also, congratulations on your anniversary, Rosie. That's wonderful. I think Councilwoman Saracena needs to recuse herself. I think that has to happen. If that doesn't happen, I think that's very troublesome. As many of you know, I've come to these meetings, was coming to these meetings for a long time, challenging the former council who was Republican majority. And I can honestly say that this council this year is horrific and horrendous to watch. The abominable standard has completely dropped. I do believe the Democrats are completely ruining this state, and they are ruining Summit. They are completely destroying the fabric of what Summit is and what Summit represents. So we'll see how this goes, but I got a feeling that a data center is coming to Summit. So we'll see how this goes.
Hi, I'm Nika Rieppe. I live at 126 Mountain Avenue. I was not planning to speak tonight. My husband and I, we wrote to a couple council members and we were very appreciative to get responses. I just wanted to bring up one point. I am completely against all data centers and reiterate everything that everyone said. The only point that I want to make in addition to what reiterating is that thank you for the presentation. But in listening to that, as someone who I know nothing about data centers, I came here just to inform myself. I know that I don't want them, but I don't know anything specific. And hearing this presentation, everything that went through my head is all the things he's not saying. So if we're going to say we have these 3 criteria, so something at 19 megawatts, which I know at least 19 megawatts is not good. Well, we're talking about one data center. What's to say if something passes the 3 criteria that we're not going to have 3 or 5 that could come into here? It passes the criteria and we could have them. And then we're talking about, well, technology changes, or right now they don't want places with big land. Well, what if data centers soon don't need that big land under 19 megawatts? And then you have an infiltration of multiple data centers here. I think that that's not, we've heard what one everyone's complaining about. Imagine more than one. So please really think about the language. Please really think about bringing in experts. I'm just so upset listening to this to my fellow residents. I don't live near Kent Place, but I feel for them. I feel for everyone in my community. So please, I urge you to please think about the language. Take your time and bring in experts. Thank you.
Further comments from members of the public? Okay, then we'll call the public portion of this hearing closed and move to comments from council members. Well, Councilmember Boyer, you look like you are locked and loaded.
Yes, no one else wanted to make comments. Just a point of order real quick, Council President, I want to clear this up that there is no 3-minute rule for council or comments. I just didn't hear you say that. I just want the public to know that.
Did say that in my council president report.
Okay, I didn't hear, I'm sorry. So let me begin first by thanking Augusto for all his hard work. I know there was a lot to go into this. Our professionals built a definition with real care, and I want to be fair about the work that you did. I'm going to ask 2 things tonight. First, that we close the gap. We've heard from numerous residents about the gap, and this is something that I mentioned at the introduction, that I didn't need to reread. I think you all saw the same and read the same thing that I had said. And second, that we direct a city commission, an independent study of what a facility like this would mean in Summit, its impact on our grid, our water, the noise, the vibration, the air quality, and the around-the-clock operation, and that we publish those findings for the public so you can no one knows. And here's why the study together with a complete all-out ban. And I'm not here to rule out impossibility forever because we don't know. And that's why I would want to see a study. But right now, a permanent ban is needed. Now, I want to talk about what bothers me with the whole language, and it is the 20 megawatt number. And I talked to folks on council about this. The argument is that it's not really essential, and that the other language captures that use regardless. I take that seriously, but follow it to its conclusion, right? If the principal use criteria is what actually defines data center, then a facility that meets those criteria is already captured at any size, which means the number adds nothing to the catch. It only adds a line. And, this is not a theoretical thing, right? When we talk about the small data centers, and, I think the presentation and in their mind, in people's minds, large capacity facilities. But according to industry analysts, the fastest growing segment of AI data center development right now is not the giants, it's the smaller facilities, 5 to 20 megawatt range. And they do it in clusters, modules, edge centers built by the dozens, right? So the threshold is set at exactly the top of the category that is growing the fastest. And we would be banning the rare giant and leaving the door open for the common kind. I also have been told the number protects current uses like hospitals. It does not. The hospital is protected by the computer center definition. Computing that serves a building's main purpose. That definition contains no megawatt figure. So the carve out protects the hospital, not the number. So we can address the threshold without putting one legitimate use in this city at risk. And here's the gap that none of the defenses has answered. And I've read pretty much all of them. The ordinance measures one use. Its own final sentence says transformers, substations, utility, infrastructure shall be considered separate uses. The text itself splits a facility into separate pieces, and there is no aggregate limit anywhere in it. So even granting every other point, nothing here stops the load from being divided, or 2 or 3 sub-threshold facilities from opening, each under that line of 20 megawatts, together drawing several times the power of our entire town. We would be measuring one building while the city pays for all of them. I've not heard an answer to that. And until there is one, the concern stands. And finally, the noise. I've said this before. I live right across the street from the hospital. That low vibration, and at times that high vibration, and the generator at the hospital is only on for 4 hours, and it drives me nuts. I could imagine something being on 24/7. It's just not right. The last thing is, this is probably one of the most important decisions this young council has to make, and they didn't do anything wrong, right? This is the process, and we're going through the process. The public came in, we're listening to you, we're hearing you. This is not a Democrat versus Republican thing. This is us needing to listen to the residents and now to make changes to the ordinance. I've been here here before with a lot more people here. And as a senior councilman now, I've made mistakes. I've been a little stubborn. But the reality is, I'm telling the council right now, don't be like me 2 years ago. Right? It all worked out, but I can be honest. It is what it is. But that's what a senior, council member should do, right? What we should do tonight is table this ordinance. We should go back. We should make it stronger. There's no reason for the 20 megawatt to be in there unless we have plans one day to actually do this. Other than that, I don't see the reason for it. I don't. And no one can explain to me why. Because it has nothing to do with hospitals, libraries, even Bristol Myers Squibb or any other pharmaceutical company. You're talking about 2, 3, 4 megawatts, right? Why do we have 20 in this? You know what 20 megawatts is? I had asked this question before, if we could get like an illustration. 20 megawatts powers 15,000 homes. 15,000 homes. You know how many homes are in Summit? About 8,400. So that is double. Double. But we can't have that happen. So, Council President, I will let other members speak through you, but I just want to let you know that I do want to make a motion to table this ordinance. I don't have to do it now. I guess I want to let others speak first, or if Serena. So through you, Council President, if our city solicitor thinks the chain of events, if we do the motion now, I think I'd rather have the other council members talk and then I can do the motion. But that's your decision, Council President. That's the city
I
solicitor.
don't
Thank
believe
you.
you've technically made the motion.
No, I haven't. Yeah. I just didn't want to have a vote and miss it. So just let me know.
Councilmember Lanning. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't go the other direction. I apologize, Councilmember Robinson.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Augusto, for outlining the ordinance, showing us why this is such a. And I also want to thank all of the residents that have reached out to us. Now, and Heidi and that was lucky to have so many residents that are really sharp, really want to help us make this as strong as possible, because we're all in agreement that none of us want data centers of any size. None of us want that. So we have two choices. Right? We have right. This ordinance, it needed to go to the planning board for consistency review. So we cannot make any major change to this ordinance about megawatts or anything like that tonight and pass it, right? We would have to start all over. So what we can do at the same time is passing this ordinance, and then we have something, and then immediately getting to work with all of the experts we have and getting this ordinance as strong as possible. Because if we wait and send this back, we're going to be back in front of July 7th. We're not open. Nobody has applied. There's nothing in front of us anymore or anything like that. That we're got like no. This is something to do proactively.
Please, no comments from the public. This is a council member conversation.
For context, there are no applications to the zoning board for this kind of use. land use division. So, I don't know.
Yes, well, Councilmember Lynn, okay, Councilmember Christie.
I would also really like to thank all the members of the public who came to this council session, who sent the emails. This is really, for me, democracy in action. And I've asked that each of you, some of you who've spoken here tonight for the very first time, think about the work that council's doing and all, it's about 70 different committees, commissions, boards, subcommittees that you can volunteer to get involved with. I encourage you all to do that. There's a lot of brain power in this room. None of us on council has the kind of experience in AI data center construction or engineering. We were relying on a very talented city land use manager, our city solicitor, and the experts that they were able to tap into, as well as the state level model ordinances that they relied on. And this is government we're talking about. The government, almost by definition, lags what private companies are doing, especially in an emerging and evolving technology area. So I think there are a lot of great situations, a lot of great suggestions on the floor tonight. I'm not the person to figure out which ones make sense and which ones don't, which ones we should add, which ones we should not. I also think it's important to have some protection. We have heard, and I heard tonight, and I saw on the internet today, that there are companies that are advertising, or real estate firms advertising their properties for this very purpose. And so I think out of an abundance of caution, we should have something on the books to send a signal. We communicate to the real estate firms that we are banning this. And I think we have significant protection, if not watertight, we have better protection than the DR currently provides us from everything that I've heard. So for those reasons, oh, and I really wanted to thank Councilman Boyer. I appreciate him diving deep into the details. And also his comment that this is not a partisan issue. We are united on this. We've been united on almost everything we voted on this year. And this is yet another example where council is trying to work together to get something good done. And I think Councilman Boyer's questions are strengthening what we're going to ultimately result in on this ordinance as we amend it. So that's where I am on this. I really appreciate everybody coming out and staying here and listening and getting involved.
Thank you, Councilmember Christie. Yes, Councilmember Landon.
Thank you, Council President. Honestly, I'm still digesting a lot of what I heard. First, thank you, Mr. Delmaso and your team for that excellent presentation. Past 2 weeks, particularly those who have come with these very we just start by restating the headline. No one up here wants an AI none of us. And banning AI data centers has bipartisan support. As I said at the introduction of this ordinance at the last meeting, it's rapidly evolving. I've learned a lot, as I said, over time. Like this ordinance, we may need to revise multiple times. And where I disagree is with Councilman Boyer on two of this. We cannot allow perfection to be the end. He may be showing up to a gunfight with a knife in this case, but I'd rather do that than show up empty. And we will improve. I think we should pass this tonight. You strengthen the protections for someone.
Thank you, Councilmember Landon. I'll only add as somebody who spent I'm sorry. No, go right ahead, Councilmember. I was making assumptions and they were incorrect. Please, Councilmember Lucero Senior.
Thank you, Council President. I want to echo the gratitude that we all feel for everyone coming out with very deep engagement on this issue and very thoughtful review of the issue. Again, I think we're hearing throughout the room that we all want a best in class ordinance And we are mindful of the fact that even since the introduction of this proposed ordinance, had peer communities, Sparta and Madison introduce their own ordinances. Right? We're watching Monroe, Millville, Red Bank, Warren,
Berkeley Heights.
President. So we want to both learn from excellent feedback of our residents and our in-house experts, as well as what peer municipalities are doing. Right, so I am in agreement with several of my colleagues that I believe we should adopt the proposed ordinance to give us an additional layer of protection. And then as we learn over the next few weeks, if we feel that there are opportunities for improvement, we will absolutely make them. It does not slow down the process. Again, it is additive of protective layers. Certainly creates no additional risk. It's no harder to amend an ordinance than it is to adopt a full new ordinance. It would slow down the process, right? I think we've got a really solid foundation here, and gratitude very much to I will say of the questions about whether I am conflicted. I will note in brief. So my husband works for a company called Corby. We are involved in the project that's going on. He is one of over 2,000 employees. He's not an executive officer, not an executive. I won't bring in some of the, I'll leave out any colorful language of some of the verbiage that's been used, but I will say he's certainly not the force behind what's going on in Kenilworth. He works on it. I know the force is an awesome nickname that we have adopted as a family and kind of reclaimed it as the force, but he works in a totally separate, not involved in the data center team. We have no direct or indirect benefit. We're no differently situated than anyone who owns stock in a publicly traded technology. With any matter that comes before council, I take a pause, right? We all do. And we consider whether we are conflicted. In this matter, I took that pause, I referred back to the applicable state law, and I determined that there was no conflict. As an additional layer, I conferred with our chair and ultimately her and that was done there. Again, as I said, I don't want to do the easy thing, the expedient thing. I want to do the right thing. Because a conflict of interest means something, right? It means law, and so I want to honor that and do what I feel and what our city solicitor right thing. And I also don't want to make it more difficult for any of my colleagues or future colleagues, so that they must recuse themselves in certain situations when it's not actually called for law or guidance. So if you have additional questions or concerns, I'm happy to sit with you and consider them and talk through them.
So if we have learned one thing this evening, it's that definitions matter. And I'm very grateful particularly to Mr. Del Maso for defining computer center for the first time in our development regulations ordinance. That in itself closed a big gap. As he said, AI data center has a three-prong definition. You can get caught on any of the three prongs. Certainly, if I can drag this analogy out, we could add prongs or make them sharper, and I'm sure we shall. But in the meantime, if I'm taking a fork to the gunfight, that's better. That's also better than going empty-handed. It sounds from what we've heard that we need to go back and determine how to enforce our noise ordinances and who is truly responsible for them and make that happen. And we'll get that track going as well. That I believe we are
passes tonight, but there's a intention to either amend or, that have to go back to the planning board.
Yes, so the planning board has already agreed that this ordinance is consistent. If you make any amendments to the substance, it would be referred back to the planning board again, and they would just be applying the same test of whether it's not inconsistent or consistent.
I kind of feel as though something unfortunate, particularly if there's a commitment by the council to really go back and close the loopholes, because I believe that there are some.
I believe you have a motion, Councilmember Moore.
Yes. One quick question for land use manager. Augusta, you said currently, based on the land use law, currently AI data centers are prohibited, right?
Based on our current DRO, a proposed AI data center would be.
They are prohibited. Okay. And the debate, the question would be if we pass this ordinance tonight, with the 20 megawatt definition, that changes the current prohibition, right?
No, it actually wouldn't change the current prohibition. What the definition does is, as I explained, it just sets up the confines where a zoning official or zoning board would interpret that prohibition. So it would still remain prohibited. The AI data center, whether it is 20 megawatts or greater or less than, or has or does not have a measurable impact on water, it has any of that criteria, it would still be banned. So it doesn't change. The prohibition is there, just as a statement, because it's not included in the zone districts, it is prohibited. Now, this would just be a restatement and assertion of the fact that clearly now AI data centers are prohibited.
Council President, I'd like to be on record to table this motion, to table this ordinance for the fact that right now, currently AI data centers are prohibited. And with the passing of this ordinance, it would actually make it easier for AI data company to come in and argue the 19 or so below megawatt threshold. So with that, I make a motion to table.
Second. We are not going to vote on that. I can.
Could I ask for clarification from our land use manager of this assertion?
Council President, there's a motion on the floor.
Right, and there is not a second of that motion.
No discussion.
So there isn't a dis.
But prior to our vote on the ordinance, I would like to
Yes, that.
Yeah, it seems we have additional issues used, insinuated by people. Will this ordinance actually increase the risk of Summit to construction of the data center? Would passing tonight's ordinance, the one that's on the agenda, increase the risk of a data center in Summit?
No. Plainly not.
Point of order. Yeah, it's actually. Point of
Does this
order.
get to be the, okay?
Council President, asking for a point of order.
Yes.
Thank you. Our city clerk, the motion to table, I didn't hear that it was officially denied, so.
It died.
President did ask
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure it was on record.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm so sorry, the city solicitor said it, and I thought that, you're right, it should have come from me. Okay, with all of that, I think we are closing this hearing. Given the time, I'm going to call a 5-minute recess so we can stand up and stretch our legs.
This was fun. I feel like I'm ready. Lower back.
Oh, and those you can't replace. Those you get. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can. Focus. Oh, okay. I did tell them that they didn't have. I did tell them. Well, I'm gonna hang out for a little bit.
Thank you, sir. I'm gonna run. I'm getting tired, but you guys are gonna go.
We're gonna, hey, we got 8 more ordinances. That's not even getting to the resolutions.
No, but I mean, this one. So then you should, and then you. It's my opinion.
Well,
I'm not.
you know, like for us. I told you, I spent a big chunk of my early career. I've worked for the Treasury. I led a team and wrote tax regulation. And then I got to go and talk to groups of lawyers and stand there and defend them. And that's my job.
So you're good at this. Go for it.
Well, I always tell people, you know, when they get mad at me, it's like, hey, I've been insulted by that.
I would hope so.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we have 8 more ordinances to hold hearings about. Aren't we excited? So let us get going. We are all back, so let's continue this session. So, Madam Clerk, would you please read ordinance for hearing number 26-3382?
Ordinance of the City of Summit County of Union, New Jersey, amending and supplementing Chapter 35 of the City Code entitled Development Regulations, Ordinance 35-9.2, prohibited uses.
Thank you. Councilmember Louis.
Thank you, Council President. Ordinance 26-3382 would add a prohibition prohibited use to the city code to ban detention facilities. Other towns in New Jersey are facing the adverse consequences of detention facilities. They're simply not keeping with the character of our town. I want to add an important layer of protection against them. To be clear, this is not an ordinance designed to attract detention facilities. I move to open the hearing.
Okay, so let's begin with comments from the public. Is there any person here who would like to speak about detention facilities?
Oh, it's late. Will Von Klemperer, 156 Colonial Road. I urge council to pass an absolute ban. Make the language as tight as you can. And I look at this in terms of what's temporary and what's permanent. Temporary, we're in a period of anti-immigrantism, but that will pass. We'll have a different president, we'll have different governing. What is permanent is if Summit does anything that looks like collaboration with ICE. I just want to mention for information something, those of us who have visited in detention centers, those of us who volunteer in the immigrant community, you should know that some detention center guards address detainees as money. Money, you get over there. Money, you hurry up. The private companies who own these centers, they charge for every night that a bed is full, every meal that is served, every detainee who goes to sick call. You know, it's like your hotel bill. You do this, you buy the snacks in the lobby, it all shows up on the bill. At the state level, then Governor Murphy and the majority of the legislature, they ended the practice that New Jersey county jails would rent rooms to ICE for immigration detention. They stopped that. So at the state level, our state is refusing to collaborate. I hope that at the municipal level, we will do the same. The ordinance would be the basis for our defense, but I remind us that President Trump's ICE is lawless. Summit cannot count on ICE to submit a nice proposal to our city clerk. They're not going to ask, well, when does the planning board meet so we can get an approval? They roared into Delaney Hall in Newark with no real interest in permits for the plumbing or the ventilation system in a facility that had been idle for over 5 years. They refused Newark Mayor Baraka's entrance, and when he left, they came out through the gates, laid hands on him, took him away. So please pass this, and just, I'm asking that the community should know that passing it is the first step. Everyone in the community will then have to watch ICE carefully and be ready to resist promptly. Thank you.
We have other comments from members of the public.
Hi, Irene Loschert. I just was wondering, can you explain, is this part of the same ordinance for the data AI center? Is there not a vote after all of everything that we talked about? Do you vote always all at the end for all the ordinances? I thought like each ordinance gets.
Then we go back and then we do final consideration
I see.
on each of the ordinances. This happens to have the same title.
I see. Okay. Okay.
Other comments from members of
Dennis and Harry L., 140 Broad Street, Summit, New Jersey. I must say that I'm very pleased that Common Council has taken this step with this ordinance to address something that is not needed in Summit. For over 37 years that I've been a resident, prior Common Councils, mayors, and residents and now this common council and mayor have stated that you were in favor of affordable housing. You've also stated that there's no vacant land in Summit. You are concerned about overdevelopment, and you are concerned about not building anything that changes the character of Summit and goes against Summit's master plan. If these positions have been taken on affordable housing, then they apply even more for being against having a detention facility in Summit. Now, I must say this evening that unless Summit has changed, this is not who we are. Or should I say, this is not how I see Summit. First of all, Summit does not have an illegal immigration problem or a problem with violent criminals living here. There may be some persons who may have overstayed their visa, missed the deadline for renewing or getting a green card, or did not understand a process that they needed to follow. These are not criminal violations, and they do not rise to the level of needing a detention facility in Summit. Secondly, many of these detention facilities are operated by private for-profit companies that are not concerned about overdevelopment, neighborhood character, human rights abuses, arrest of innocent, hardworking persons, and sometimes students, often without a warrant, and other abuses that are ethically and morally wrong. And thirdly, members of Common Council, you have the authority with the passing of this ordinance to state that Summit does not want a detention facility here, and you don't have to accept one. You are covered in New Jersey under the municipal land use law. The passing of this ordinance will encourage all residents, no matter where they are from, their race or ethnicity, to know that they are welcomed here. Will address the same concerns of no vacant land, overdevelopment, and changing the character of the city that is used for affordable housing, and will send a message that a detention facility of any kind is not needed in Summit. Summit does not need this attention. Use the tools you have, pass the ordinance, and let Summit and others know that this is who we are.
Any other comments from members of the public? Okay, then let's close the public portion of the hearing. Move on. Do we have comments from members of council? Yes, Councilmember Lanham.
I just want to say I am so proud to be part of a council that is going to be detention centers like the one just 15 minutes down the road. Find people without due process, humanizing conditions, violation of their human rights. Residents of Summit do not want that here. Thrilled to be able to vote on this ordinance.
Councilmember Lucinda.
Council President, I'm grateful that we are considering this ordinance that I have been pushing in nearby Roxbury, just around 5 miles away from here. Have a suburban, family-friendly community known for its excellent public schools, about 22,000 residents. A lot like Summit. There, they are fighting against the detention center facility, where the Department of Homeland Security tried to confine as part of their mass deportation. That is not what Summit values, and that is what we want to do. Some have regrettably dismissed this ordinance as political theater or virtue signaling, rather than being curious and asking questions. But it is important that we take this step. Federal law tells us that it's important that we take this step. The National Environmental Policy Act of 1970, the guides that implement it, are meant to restrict and guide the construction of federal And there, they make reference to the quote, compatibility of federal projects with applicable state and local planning and zoning standards. So it matters that we have this on the book. And as has been discussed, Delaney, down the road here, very close to us, work, is operated by a private detention center operator. So we may have to do a consideration of federal preemption, if it's the agent of the federal government. If it's a private operator, those protections for the federal government are significant. And there too, it makes it ever more important that we have this protection.
Merely add, actually, thanks to our city solicitor, I have never been so impressed with the whereas clauses in an ordinance. I think you did, that the explanation of why we are introducing, and hopefully as in this ordinance, lays out beautifully why it does not belong in the zoning. So, Councilmember Griswold.
Thank you, Council President. I introduced this ordinance because I view detention centers as simply an undesirable land use. It's not keeping the Summit's character. I also support strong border enforcement as well as humane treatment of immigrants that we have in this country. I think we can do both. We can walk and chew gum.
Let us close this hearing and move on to the next. Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance for hearing number 26-3383?
Bond ordinance appropriating $5,604,000 and authorizing the issuance of $5,337,000 in bonds or notes of the city for various improvements or purposes authorized to be undertaken by the city of Summit.
Councilmember Lyman.
Council President, if I may, the next three ordinances are our annual ordinances authorizing the city to issue bonds to cover the capital plan. This is an administrative step following the approval of the annual budget. Ordinance number 2633, bond ordinance stems from the budget, authorizing issuing bonds or notes sufficient to cover the plan.
Hey, do we have any comments from members of the public on this ordinance? Do we have any comments from members of council on this ordinance? Okay, I'm going to call this hearing closed. Madam Clerk, can we move on to ordinance number 26-3384?
Bond ordinance appropriating $2,250,000 and authorizing the issuance of $2,142,000 in bonds and notes of the city for various sewer utility improvements or purposes authorized to be undertaken by the city of Summit County.
Councilmember Lennon.
President, ordinance number 26. This bond ordinance stems from sewer utilities 2026. Sewer utilities. Move to open the hearing.
Do we have any comments from members of the public on this ordinance? Do we have any comments from members of council on this ordinance? Councilmember Griswold.
Thank you, Council President. I guess a question for our city administrator. For these bond-related ordinances in total, how would they affect the bond rating of Summit, which is very top quality at this time? Will this have any negative impact on the bond rating of our city? And therefore the cost of our borrowing in the future?
Council President, they will not have a negative impact. We're actually going through rating calls this week to go out for permanent bonds for 23, 24, and 25 capital projects. It's looking good. I don't have the rating yet, so I don't want to get overzealous, but calls are going well. Our financials are looking good. These ordinances are setting us up for our capital projects replacements. They're not part of the permanent financing. but we are authorized to go out when we decide to do that in the future.
We also, works with us on this, the financial planner, and
Any other comments from members of council? I will only note that we are way below the authorized amount of total debt the city can issue. Good thing. We want some low level, but not a whole lot, and that's exactly what we are. Okay, let's close that hearing and move on to ordinance number 26-3385.
On ordinance providing for the improvement of parking facilities in and by the city of Summit and County of New Jersey appropriating $2,500,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $2,469,000 notes of the city for financing such a
Councilmember Lennon.
Council President, ordinance number 263385, this bond ordinance parking utilities authorizes issuing bonds or notes sufficient to cover parking utilities.
Second. Do we have any comments from members of the public on this one? Do we have any comments from members of council on this ordinance? This should help us, this will finance rehabbing the tiered garage on Springfield Avenue. So let's close this hearing and, keep going. Finance ordinances. Madam Clerk, would you please read ordinance 26-3386?
An ordinance to amend the code appendix A schedule of fees contained in the revised general ordinances.
Councilmember Lennon.
Thank you, Council President, ordinance number 263388. Ordinance to amend some of the fees in the city code for construction, community programs, and police department discussed in previous council meetings. All departments need to cost to the city and
Do we have any comments from members of the public on this ordinance? Okay, do we have any comments from members of council on this ordinance? Okay, let's close this here. And move on to finance, ordinance number 26-3387.
An ordinance to establish the 2026 salaries, wages, and compensations of and for the officers and employees of the city of Summit, County of Union, State of New Jersey.
Councilmember Landon.
Thank you, Council President. Ordinance 2633 salaries for Union County annual adjustment to salaries and wages passed in the 2026 budget and the open hearing.
Do we have any comments from members of the public on this ordinance? Do we have any comments from members of council on this ordinance? Yes, Councilmember Calhoun.
Thank you, Councilmember Lamont. Salary increases for our hardworking staff. We're in a really difficult climate right now. Unfortunately, responsibility is always like top of mind things for us and all of our well-deserved salary.
I'm doubling your salary.
I didn't see it in here.
I'm doubling your salary, Madam Mayor. Do we have any other comments from members of council?
Council,
Yeah.
Council President.
Yes, Councilmember Boyer.
As we were talking about salaries, I want to bring up again, our crossing guards. I know, Councilmember Landon had told me before that some of very unemployment benefits, yes, and, I did a little digging, and, a lot of them don't, right? think when we start looking at increasing the salaries, I'll say again on the record that the people who cross our children across the street, who are working cold outside, hot outside, they can also use a little adjustment in their salary. Thank you, Councilman.
Okay, let's close this hearing. Madam Clerk, would you please read ordinance for hearing number 26-3?
An ordinance amending chapter 3 police regulations of the code of the city of Summit County, New Jersey, adding a section 3-20 entitled drones and other unmanned aircraft.
Thank you, Councilmember Calhoun.
Thank you, Council President. This is ordinance ID 26-3388, and this ordinance regulates drones and unmanned aircraft in the city of Summit. Move to open the hearing on this ordinance.
Comments from members of the public?
Pat Hurley, 192 Ashland Road. Rosie, happy anniversary. And thanks to everyone here. I don't know how I did this for 6 years, honestly. But I did. I think it was like over 200 plus meetings. You do the math. Anyway, but that's not why I'm here tonight. I'm asking council, and this is late, so I'm just going to read this without any emotion. I'm asking council to pause or revise this drone ordinance because, as written, it appears to regulate an area largely reserved for the FAA, the operation of aircraft in the national airspace, and drones, and does unnecessarily damage an industry. I don't think the council members fully understand. The city of Summit cannot regulate aviation safety or operations in the national airspace system, which this ordinance attempts to do. The federal government does that, and the FAA already has existing regulations covering the operations of small UAS and UASs drones. For example, the ordinance bans drone flights over public gatherings unless approved in writing by the chief of police. Yes, I still love Ryan, but FAA guidance makes it very clear that an FAA Part 107 certified operator who follows FAA regulations, including rules for operations over people, cannot be subject to local approval for that flight. The FAA already regulates when and how drones may be operated over people. This is the domain of the FAA, not the city of Summit. The ordinance also claims drones pose substantial risk of injury. This is alarmist and unsubstantiated, as FAA regulations already regulate such risks. This language suggests Summit seeks to override federal safety laws and wants to become basically an aviation authority. Summit can regulate drone conduct on city property, including launches, landings, harassments, voyeurism, nuisance, reckless endangerment, interference with emergency operations, which is actually already regulated by the federal government, and misuse of public property. That I fully support. But Summit should not and cannot prohibit FAA compliant overflight or require local police permission for a flight the FAA already allows. I believe public access or public spaces should remain accessible to responsible FAA Part 107 certified drone operators who are trained, tested, and certified for legitimate activities such as photography, inspections, mapping, journalism, construction, real estate, and security. Lawful drones use shouldn't be seen as suspicious activity, and certainly it's not a threat to the public. That's it.
Thank you.
I'm tired.
Do you have any other comments from members of the public?
Denison Harrier, 140 Broad Street, Summit, New Jersey. In reference to the previous speaker, is there a possibility tonight for the chief of police to speak to this in terms of clarifying exactly why this was needed, or just what to clarify the whole situation?
Well, I was going to say chief, but let's see if there are any other members of the public who want to say something so you can address everything. So, do we have any other comments from members of the public? Okay, then please, yes, please, Peters, I would ask you to address some of the comments.
Sure, from Mr. Hurley. Yes.
Explain what you
Through you, Council President, I'm going to read an email that I had previously drafted in response to some of the similar concerns. Been here for 16 hours. I think just reading this might make me sound a little bit more intelligent instead of speaking from the hip. So I do concede that the FAA does have restrictions in place for both drone operators under both 49 U.S. Code 44809 parentheses A, as well as the Part 107 referenced by Mr. Hurley. However, municipal police officers do not have the authority to enforce federal law. The process generally would be for a police officer to identify the operator, stop any unsafe conduct, gather information on the operator and the drone, and ultimately refer the matter to the FAA. Having the ability to enforce certain violations via ordinance will undoubtedly reduce the time it takes for the FAA to receive, review, and address any reported incidents from the Summit Police Department. It will also likely serve as a deterrent for those operating outside the guidelines of their restrictions. Additionally, under 14 CFR US Code 107.39, the FAA restricts the flying of drones over any open air assembly of people, as Mr. Hurley had stated, which means a gathering of people, this is how they define it, a gathering of people who are sufficiently concentrated and cannot readily move away if the drone were to fall. However, it does not address the following: flying over events that generate high attendance but less concentrated crowds. Restrict the launching of drones from city property, which may expose the city to liability. At the request of Councilwoman Camlinson, I've reached out to the city solicitor, who did say that the city may be exposing them to some level of liability by not restricting drones from takeoff and landing on city property. For example, if a juvenile gets a drone for Christmas, goes down to Memorial Field and flies it right into the face of somebody walking in their morning walk, the city could potentially be on the liability for not restricting that flight. Similar to if we didn't have a leash law with dogs at Memorial Field and we just let dogs run rampant and a dog attacked another human or another dog, we would, I think, bear some responsibility for that. Considering Summit is a variation of airspaces, we're not just Class G. We are mostly Class G, which is unrestricted. There is no blanket requirement for pre-authorization to fly. We also set forth clear penalties for violations, which the ordinance does. The FAA regulations do not. In summary, with the passing of this ordinance, Summit police officers have the authority to address persons who violate the following provisions without referring the matter to the FAA: launching and landing on city property, interfering with emergency operations such as police, fire, EMS, or search and rescue, creating a nuisance, which could be defined as repeated low altitude hovering, disrupting public events, operating in a manner that causes fear of injury. And in addition, there's always privacy concerns, which may run concurrent to New Jersey state statute, criminal statutes for invasion of privacy. So in conclusion, I had told Mr. Hurley prior to his public comment, this came to my attention through the Chiefs Association with the FIFA events happening around. One of the major considerations for law enforcement for public safety was drone operations over large crowds. We consulted with Elizabeth, who has a very robust drone ordinance because they do have ports. They have major infrastructure and they border the Hudson, in addition to some other municipalities of our size, and came up with what we felt was a tailored ordinance for us. That being said, if there's any suggested revision or if there's anything a part of this ordinance that council doesn't like, promise you I will not go home and lose any sleep over it. It's just something that was brought to my attention. We are not experts. I'm not an expert, but it is something that we did a little bit of homework on and felt strongly about it. But again, it's kind of up to you guys whether or not you want to move forward with it. I'm perfectly content either way. So appreciate it. I'm open to any questions if anybody else has any.
Through you, Councilman.
Yes.
I do have a question. Chief, first of all, thank you for being here and thanking all of us. But I have a question about public property. You say city property, but that's public property, right? So does this prohibit a kid from getting a drone from Toys R Us? I don't think they're still around, but and being in a safe area, whatever we define that is, on public property, and flying a drone, are they not going to be able to do that? The difference?
My understanding is the ordinance states city property. I don't know if that conflicts with public property, if the definition is different. City-owned property.
Yeah,
So
which is the public property.
yeah,
right?
pretty much. Yeah, I would assume so.
So if the kids if they're out Sunday and nobody's around and they're out in the parking deck, I know police stations, but if they fly their little drone or whatever, they're not allowed to do that?
Under this ordinance, they would not be allowed to do that, no.
The second question I have is, what if we made, require people to have a 107 license, right?
So our officers that are a part of our UAS, Unmanned Aerial Systems Unit, which is the drone unit for the police department, we do require them to have a Part 107. It is not a requirement for the state for police officers to have it. But we did want that extra layer of protection for the city for liability purposes. I can tell you each officer who had zero experience in aviation took about 4 to 6 weeks to study for that test and pass it. And they had to pay $185 out of their own pocket and to be reimbursed from the city when and if they passed. I'd like to say they all passed the first time, but to have a 12-year-old study and take that test, if he gets the 107, he can fly it wherever he wants. It's not an easy test.
That's just my first read of this. Like, well, if the ordinance requires people to actually have this license, that means that they're complying with the rules, they will fly it, not to fly it, this and that. If we had an ordinance that said, based on the residents, if you want to fly a drone, you need to get that license, right? And then that would take care of all the other pieces. You can't fly during events and everything. So I think all of that is in there. I'm just throwing that out there. That would take care of a lot of the stuff. What I am just concerned about is just on public property and kids flying drones and things of that nature. So I think it's too prohibitive in public spaces.
No, I understand your concern, which is why we reached out to the city solicitor just to find out if we were exposing ourselves to liability by not, limiting or prohibiting the use on city property. And while, much of the liability would fall on the pilot, if there was an accident and somebody got injured, the city would bear some sense of liability because we're permitting that act to happen on city property. What level of liability that is, I don't know. And again, I don't disagree with you that having a Part 107 would allow anybody flying a drone to be better prepared and understand the airspace and where they can and cannot go. I don't think it necessarily changes the level of liability that the city faces. Whether you have a driver's license or not, you're still subject to Title 39. So, but again, whatever the council wants to do, I'm okay with it. I promise you I won't be upset. Cool.
Thank you. That's my question.
Yeah.
Yes, Councilman. Okay, Councilmember Viceres.
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to note that there's of course always discretion.
Yes.
An example that Councilman Blair has presented, it could be an
Yes.
moment, right? It wouldn't necessarily.
Correct. We do use discretion for municipal ordinance quite a bit, just because a lot of people are unaware of ordinances, right?
President, yes, this situation that Councilmember Boyer is describing is exactly what we discussed when we were going back and forth with I think it was Ron Kavanaugh. Drafted the ordinance. And the piece that I was concerned about was because, I have kids and my dad got a little drone and they went outside and they played with it. And we don't want to take that away from anybody. So that's why, we were going back and forth. To enjoy being in the park spaces, right? So all of that being said, with this ordinance, we do have the ability to remove parks from this ordinance.
Yeah, do whatever you want.
Very late. Did you want to amend the ordinance? Substantive change will.
So
have to
being
read
that,
it.
I see, so being that timing is of the essence. And we would like to apply for. And then we will amend.
And then similar to the previous topic, I'd be certainly open to guidance from an expert. I'm not an expert on this. I learned all about drones when we initiated the program as, the supervising officer. I didn't get a Part 107, but I, met with the vendors, learned a lot about drones, learned about the operation of them, but I'm by no means an expert. I didn't take the 107. I don't have a 107. I'm assuming Hurley has a 107. So there you go. I got an expert. Yeah. So now we're serving as two committees experts, one for the surveillance cameras and one for this. So every time I put an ordinance on the agenda, he shows up. It's crazy. Any other questions? Good.
Really quickly, but it's definitely important to me that
Mhm. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know, again. Yep.
Because my kids do like drones park and so I think again it feels a little overreaching to me. Let's revisit.
I don't love going on record and saying that we use discretion quite frequently. However, having an ordinance in place and being able to use discretion, but also being able to refer to the ordinance if something did go bad, to say that there was something in place to mitigate this risk. It's kind of a good way to go about business. Well, city-owned property, it states in the ordinance, so it would include something like the top of the Cullis garage, which I think should still be included. Parks might be a little bit different because there's more space and you're not launching from an elevated position. Because that ceiling, that 400-foot ceiling doesn't change whether, you're, depending on where you are in the town and the topography, it can change. But if you're on top of a structure, typically from what I understanding, and again, I don't have a Part 107, Mr. Hurley might clarify me, that structure, the topography comes from the ground, not necessarily from the top of the structure. So if you go 400 feet from the top of the Cullis garage, you might be north of the 400-foot ceiling. That it goes from the top of the structure. So there you go. So you could actually go higher than 400 feet in regards to the topography if you're launching from 80 feet or 100 feet up already. Now you're 500 feet in the airspace. Yes. Well, there's other components to this that I think would cover that. And again, we're not trying to restrict flying. The FAA oversees airspace, right? That's not what we're looking to do. We're just looking to give ourselves something to grab onto if we do have anything that falls within this ordinance, that we don't have to necessarily refer it to Washington, D.C. and wait for a response. We can address it in real time. And if that means, a $35 ordinance violation for someone who's not being cooperative, or using our discretion for someone who didn't know, then that's kind of those avenues that we would take.
Yes, Councilmember Christopher.
Hey, Peters, two questions for you. One, have we had any incidents in Summit that would raise concern that we need to address through this ordinance? Or is this a general issue that we're seeing in other jurisdictions? And the second part of the question is there pressure from some other entity related to FIFA that we should take action now in relationship to the
So the first part, we did have one incident where a drone crashed, and it was our drone. So yeah, it got damaged and it could have hurt somebody, and our guys are Part 107. So it's just as simple as like how fast things can go wrong with wind gusts and with weather. And these things are very sophisticated and they tend to operate pretty good, but accidents can happen. On the back end of that, the FAA did come out to the New Jersey State Chiefs of Police Association meeting, and they talked about modern technology with drones and the ongoing threat there is. If anybody saw any of the videos from the conflict between Ukraine and Russia, a lot of what they utilized was drones for attack mechanisms, and it's been a main concern for the FIFA security, which is one of the reasons we tried to kind of get this on the books as soon as possible, especially with the watch parties. And again, we're not looking to restrict whatever the FAA has in place. We're just giving ourselves the ability to kind of enforce without having to refer out and hope that we get a response. But it is something that I'm not the only chief in Union County that's pursuing this. Like I had said, I think Springfield's had one on for a while. I know Elizabeth, we took pretty much a lot of their language with the exception of some of their critical infrastructure. So it has been a topic of conversation, I think, across the board as this technology advances, and there are nefarious actors that can utilize these things and arm them with small explosives and other things, chemical agents that can just fly over and cause havoc. And I'm not saying that the Summit's ordinance is going to stop anyone from doing that, right? Like there's not going to be a terrorist that looks up our ordinance code and says, I'm not going to go to Summit because I might be subject to a $35 fine. But again, it's just, like I said, it's really up to you guys whether or not you want to move forward with it. It was just something that's been a discussion amongst chiefs of police. Did my best to do my research. Is there room for some revisions? Most likely, right? We're not experts. Pat seems to know a lot more about it than I do. But there's always work to be done, and I kind of share the same sentiment as before. Like, maybe we pass it now, see how it goes, look to have some meetings with some people who know a little bit more about this stuff, and then we can always revise it. That's a part of this process, right? The public comment, have people coming out and giving their feedback. So definitely open to that. I'm not like a closed book. And
on that basis, I will support the ordinance. With the opportunity.
Thank you. Good. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on then. Madam Clerk, read ordinance for hearing number 26-3389.
Ordinance amending the code of the city of Summit, section 7-25, regulations for movement and the parking of traffic on municipal property and Board of Education property, subsection 7-25, parking lot areas.
Thank you. Back to you, Councilmember Thomas.
Thank you, Council President. This is ordinance ID 26-3389, and this ordinance should pass later in the meeting will be open the Chestnut parking lot effective tomorrow, June 17th. Lot will return to a commuter lot for the time being. Payments and park mobile payments are the only forms of payment that we accepted. Guests were removed earlier this year in preparation for the property sale. We need to close this lot again when the property is sold. Until then, we would like our residents to have access to this lot while it is still city property. And to open the hearing on this ordinance.
Second. Thank you. Do we have comments on this ordinance from members of the public? Okay, do we have comments on this ordinance from members of council?
Through you, Council President.
Yes, Councilmember
I
Boyd.
just wanted to give a shout out to Councilwoman Collinson, because she made this happen. When she saw the issue, she brought it up. So, thank you, Councilwoman. Good job on this. Hopefully it'll relieve some parking issues.
Thank you, Councilmember Boyd. Yes. I'll just note that we are scheduled, I haven't been to the tiered garage lately, but we are scheduled, or maybe it's happening, if there's repair work there this summer. That will close the top couple of tiers, so having the Chestnut Street lot open is going to relieve some of the pressure there on parking. With that, I'll close that hearing and we can move on to votes. Okay. Ordinances for final consideration. Okay. Madam Clerk, would you please read the title of, ordinance number 26-3390.
Ordinance of the city of Summit, County of Union, New Jersey, amending and supplementing chapter 35 of the city code entitled Development Regulations, subsection 35-9.
Thank you. Councilmember Christopher Lee.
Thank you, Council President. Having closed the hearing on ordinance 26-3390, a relatively short time ago, I move this ordinance for final adoption.
Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Mr. Boyer,
This is the, I'm sorry, this is there's
The
two.
data centers.
Okay. Just a quick note that I made a motion to table this. The motion was denied. I do feel as though that the 20 megawatts should be out of this. Anyway, but for that reason, nay.
Ms. Foley,
Aye.
Allenson,
Aye.
Ms. Landon. Aye. Saraceno. Aye. President Toad.
Aye. Okay, let's go to ordinance number 26-3382. Would you please read the title, Madam Clerk?
Ordinance of the city of Summit, County of Union, New Jersey,
having closed the hearing on ordinance 26-3382 a short time ago, I move this ordinance for final adoption.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Boyer?
Aye.
Mr. Rispoli?
Aye.
Ms. Collison?
Aye.
Ms. Ladman? Aye. Mrs. Saraceno?
Aye.
President Toad?
Aye. Moving on, Madam Clerk, would you please read read the title of ordinance number 26-3383?
Bond ordinance appropriating $5,604,000 and authorizing the issuance of $5,337,000 bonds and notes of the city for various improvements or purposes authorized to be undertaken by the city of Summit County.
Thank you. Councilmember Langen.
Thank you, Council President. Ordinance number 26. Having closed the hearing on this ordinance just moments ago, I move this ordinance.
Second.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Boyer?
Aye.
Mr. Rispoli?
Aye.
Ms. Collison? Aye. Ms. Ladman? Aye. Mrs. Saraceno? Aye. President Toad?
Aye. Madam Clerk, would you please read the title of ordinance number 26-3384?
Bond ordinance appropriating $2,250,000 and authorizing the issuance of $2,100,000 bonds or notes of the city for various sewer utility improvements and purposes authorized to be undertaken by the city of Summit County.
Thank you. Councilmember Langen.
President, ordinance number 26-3384.
Thank you. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Boyer?
Aye.
Mr. Rispoli?
Aye.
Ms. Collison?
Aye.
Ms. Ladman? Aye. Mrs. Saraceno? Aye. President Toad?
Aye. Madam Clerk, would you please read the title of ordinance number 26-3385?
Bond ordinance providing for the improvement of parking facilities in and by the city of Summit County and New Jersey appropriating $2,593,000 therefore, and authorizing issuance of $2,469,000 bonds or notes of the city for financing.
Thank you. Councilmember Langen.
President, ordinance number 2385. Having closed the hearing on this ordinance. Oh, I move this ordinance for final adoption.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Boyer?
Aye.
Mr. Rispoli?
Aye.
Ms. Collison?
Aye.
Ms. Ladman? Aye. Mrs. Saraceno? Aye. President Toad?
Aye. Madam Clerk, would you please read the title of ordinance number 26-3386?
Ordinance to amend the code, Appendix A, Schedule of Fees contained in the revised general ordinances of the city.
Thank you. Councilmember Langen.
Thank you, Council President. Ordinance number 20.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Can I have a second?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Second.
Okay. Now roll call, please.
Boyer?
Aye.
Mr. Rispoli?
Aye.
Ms. Collison? Aye. Saraceno? Aye. President Toad?
Aye. Madam Clerk, would you please read the title of ordinance number 26-3387?
An ordinance to establish the 2026 salaries, wages, or compensations and for the officers and employees of the city of Summit County.
Thank you. Councilmember Langen.